Hello and welcome to Pain in the Arts, the podcast for the arts and creative sector in Wales, where we talk about the good, the bad, and why am I sat in this studio in this heat moment. I am broadcaster Chris J Birch, and
I am the puddle that used to be the editor, Jak Rhys Birch. And as you can tell, in this heat today, I cannot be bothered. I really can't. This is our fourth or fifth time trying to record this.
Yes.
Because the heat is overheating all of our equipment.
It is very much, it is a crazy environment here. I have no idea what's going on. In Wales at the moment, 35 degrees at 6 o'clock in the evening. It is ridiculous. But still, we are here, commitment to the arts.
It will probably be a more clipped episode. I'm going to try and absolutely wrap you up tight as a drum to get this over and done with. I really am.
Right, let's start off then. We were both at two theatre shows last night. You were at Thespians in the new theatre. I was at the Welsh Millennium Centre to see Fawlty Towers. Tell me all about Thespians.
So it's written by the people who did the play that goes wrong.
Yeah.
But it's their first ever musical, so it's down the same lines as that. Based in ancient Greece, and it's about a group of people that live on an island off the coast of mainland Greece, and they go to Athens for a festival, and they have to offer something up for that festival, and they invent the first ever play while they're doing it.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, they're currently in a drought, so they're trying to get the gods to give them water, so they decide to do it as a play, as an offering to the gods. But it was funny. It was filled with lots of like ancient Greek puns and things like that.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, it wasn't my favourite. I prefer the more traditional versions of the play that goes wrong, and I think is a Peter Pan one.
Yes.
And then the Christmas Carol that goes wrong.
There is.
So I think are funnier, and the story works a little bit better at times. I watch the whole thing. For me personally, I would have cut quite big bits out of that musical because it felt very repetitive and a bit like you were sort of twitching in your seat waiting for the story. You knew where the story was going. It just felt like it dragged out a little bit.
That does happen from time to time. With some
I will say it didn't help that after the interval, it started back up again, obviously, and they had to bring the safety curtain back down again because there was technical fault. So I was quite late coming out.
Yes, you were, because I had finished 45 minutes before and was sat outside for ages.
So I don't know if it was just because like this heat in general makes you feel quite impatient and like.
But it was cold in the new theatre?
It was lovely. They have really great air conditioning in the new theatre. So if you've got tickets booked for the next couple of days and you're thinking, oh, should I go?
Oh, yeah. Well, it was equally cool in the Welsh Millennium Centre in the Donald Gordon Theatre where I saw Fawlty Towers, and Fawlty Towers, if you've seen it, you're going to know there are three iconic, well, they're all iconic, but there are three specifically iconic episodes that they put together. I mean, the one is about the Germans, which if you've not seen it, go and watch it. It is, I mean, in some ways people would say it hasn't aged well, which, okay, I would agree with to a certain extent, but it is an incredibly funny piece of sitcom TV, and it was like watching that sitcom TV on stage, and we were all laughing together, which was like it was originally designed to be. So it was bringing a set of people together, an older set of people, but that's the people who watched.
It's good that demographic could be in, because there's a lot of stuff now that you notice is aimed at much younger audiences.
Yes.
So it's nice that there's like a sort of fair playing field out there.
Yeah, definitely. No, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good fun, and I would go and see it again. I would really recommend it, and I actually 5-starred it on the edit.
So both our reviews for that are out on the edit now, so you can go over and read them if you fancy.
Yes, you can.
For you. What else have you been up to this week?
I went to Pontypridd to see the Future Commissioners conference, which was on Tuesday in in Pontypridd. Lovely venue, by the way. Go there, have a look at it. And it was lovely. It was great to see because they've got plans for what the arts and creative sector and the culture sector is going to look like and how it's going to unfold in the next 10 years. By creating reports and a series of research, and we were informing into that ahead of that report coming out, which will be out, I believe, don't quote me, but sometime around February, March time next year, possibly later, I'm not too sure, but I feel like that's the date in my head, but I'm sure we will discuss that at length here on the podcast at some point.
Oh, cool. And then you were also at a Creative Cardiff event?
Yes, when the podcast came out. So people had just come to that event having just watched/listened to this podcast, which was really nice, to be honest with you. But because we record it one day out of sync, they were talking about things that I had absolutely no idea about. But it was 47 creatives who were all in part of this one program that Creative Cardiff were doing, and I was there to give a bit of a 15-minute chat about things that are going on in the sector, plus then a bit of a round table where different groups were coming up and pitching their ideas ideas, which was really good. It was really fun, and it shows how many creatives are going on just and on everything that's going on just in our hyper local area as well. It makes you wonder what's actually going on across Wales. Then it was good fun.
Yeah, it's a conversation we've talked about quite a lot, isn't it? Though, is like accessing art across Wales. It's not always down to just the fact of things like marketing and stuff like that. It comes down to a lot of the time public transport.
Oh,
And like
yes.
as a country, we are quite poorly connected.
We are. Well, I was going to go to Builth Wells today, Wednesday, by the way. I was going to go to Builth Wells, and if I wanted to get there for 12 o'clock today, midday, it would take 3 hours on a train, which, okay, fine, 3 hours, whatever. However, the connections meant that I would have to have left on Tuesday night.
Yeah,
So-
and a lot of these buildings aren't necessarily on train routes.
No, that was
So-
2 miles down the road.
Yeah, so then you either have to like walk or bus or taxi, or then after all of that, you just think, oh, I'll drive.
Yeah.
And then you see the drive time and you're like, oh, no, I won't bother either.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot to consider in Wales when you see the amount of stuff we've got going on in North Wales, Mid Wales, West Wales, and it's just not getting the same traction and interaction. Like, I really, unfortunately, had to turn down the offer to go and see one of Mary Lloyd's new plays.
I really want to see that, yeah.
I really wanted to go and see it, but the only date that I could do, purely down to the location it was in as well, was in Abergavenny,
Yeah.
but it is on our nephew's birthday.
Oh, yeah, can't do that.
And we're having a party for him, so I'm like, right, I can't. Well, it's the day of his party, not his birthday, and I'm just like, right, because I don't drive.
Yeah.
All the other dates, you're not available, so I would have had to have got there on my own. I'm like, that's just never going to happen. But
Yeah.
it's not fair that they don't get their art seen and written about, and just a wider audience of people seeing it, really. So
Yeah.
I think that you wouldn't consider something like public transport to be such a detrimental impact on the arts pan Wales, but it really is. It really is.
We actually talked about that quite extensively yesterday in that Future Commissioners thing, and how that directly informs our ability to translate culture and art across Wales. So that, it's really interesting that everybody is having these same conversations, and it's clearly becoming more widely recognised, and yet nothing seems to happen. So hopefully that'll happen.
Maybe Helid will put on an art bus where we can
An art
paint.
bus would be lovely.
We can paint between destinations, or write a piece of music, or
Yeah, that would be fun. I would go along to that. It's just, where would the destination be?
well, this is the thing. Right, should we move on to some questions so I can get into an ice bath?
We shall. It's coming up after this. Okay, Jack, let's go with question 1.
Okay, so question 1 is from Sally.
Hello, Sally.
This is quite a thingy question. I've written a response to this because I had to sort of go away and think I need to cover all bases on it.
All right, then.
So I'll ask the question.
Okay.
Then I'll give my answer, and then
Okay.
you just feel free to jump in at the end if you want to. But I feel like this was one that needed a real response to it. Because I've got a thing, haven't I, where I like to call myself One Take Jack. Where
Yes.
I don't like a lot of preparation, because I feel like if I prepare for some of these questions, I overthink it, and I find that I can be skewed one way or another. So I think if I just say it off the bat, then I'm just saying what I think. It's my opinion. It's based on my lived experience. But this one, I thought I need to go off and do a little bit of research and full roundedness on it. But it is
I
a
am
very,
intrigued.
very interesting question.
What does Sally ask
So
you?
she has said, I read an article on the stage saying that critics should be brave enough to objectively critique work by disabled artists. What are your thoughts on this?
I heard this question. I heard this about this article. Yeah. So you've prepared a statement,
No,
an answer.
I think where my head was at with it, I
Okay.
thought, right, I need to go away and get some sort of answers and some sort of collaborative input on this.
Okay.
So it was an interesting question, because I think there's two issues being mixed together within this question, really. The first is whether disabled artists should be exempt from criticism simply because they are disabled, and my answer to that is just obviously a flat out no.
Correct,
It
yeah.
would, if we genuinely believe disabled artists belong in the cultural conversation, then their work should be discussed seriously, not patronisingly, and not treated as inspirational by default.
Okay.
And they shouldn't be protected from criticism. Serious engagement is a form of respect in the arts.
Yeah.
And everyone deserves that same level of respect when it comes to putting their art into the world. But the second issue here is how we critique that work. And that's where I think things become a little bit more complicated and nuanced.
Yeah.
So disability is one thing. It covers an enormous range of experiences, identities, and ways of engaging with the world. Some disabled artists are producing work that sits directly within mainstream art world, the art world. And can be discussed using many of the same critical frameworks that we might apply to other art forms and other artists. But there are also artists with profound learning disabilities, complex communication needs, or cognitive differences whose work may serve a totally different purpose as to a lot of the other work we're seeing out there. For some, art is not primarily about entering the commercial art market, building a career, or participating in academic debates about aesthetics. It can be about self-expression, identity, agency, or just purely communication. It's their form of communication. A way of saying things that like their words can't, which I think is a really important tool for them to use. And I say this as someone from personal experience. Like, we're both, the proud uncles of 2 nephews with quite profound learning disabilities. And we've seen firsthand how the arts can become a language when all other forms of communications fail them.
This is very true.
So that is something really important, I think, to keep in mind when you're discussing this conversation. So when people talk about being brave enough to critique disabled artists, I think we need to ask the more important question, which is what exactly are we critiquing? Because good criticism is never about imposing your own standards on someone else's work. One of the most important skills that I've always thought you need as a critic is the ability to step outside yourself and understand who the work is for, what it's trying to do, and the context in which it's being made. If a painting is trying to challenge the conventions of contemporary art, I critique it one way. If a piece of work is helping someone communicate their experiences with the world, I may need a slightly different lens on that,
that's
which
exactly true.
is always something that I keep at the front of my mind. That doesn't mean the work can't be discussed critically. It means the criticism has to be informed. And the best critics don't arrive with all the answers. They arrive with curiosity. Like, I remember when we've talked about it, I think on the podcast, but I know I've written about it at great length, is Martha, which was totally done in BSL.
Yeah.
And all of the cast bar one were deaf or hard of hearing. And I genuinely went into that with such curiosity to see, because I don't know BSL. So it was something totally new to me, and I was really excited to learn about it. And I know in previous episodes of the podcast, we've had questions about disabilities and things like that. And I have reached out to Steph Bailey Scott, who was she was in it, but one of the producers, I think.
She was one of the producers, yeah.
And I reached out to her and I said, from your perspective as a disabled artist, what is your input on this? Because I can't give the answers to everything. I need to go out into the community and speak to people who have that lived experience. But in general, disabled artists do deserve neither special protection nor special dismissal. In my opinion, they deserve thoughtful engagement. And sometimes the bravest thing a critic can do isn't to judge quickly. It's to acknowledge the limits of their own perspective and invite the voices of that community into the conversation. Because criticism shouldn't help us understand a work more deeply. A criticism should help us understand a work more deeply and not simply tell us whether or not me as a critic liked it or not.
Yeah.
So I do think it opens up a really good conversation around disabled arts and disabled artists. And when you're entering that world as someone who maybe doesn't have that disability, you need to go into it with curiosity, not into a judgmental way.
Yeah, of course. And do you know what? Right, considering you obviously that question must have been fresh off the press, because that one, that stage article, I want to say that only came out yesterday, maybe the day before. I think I saw that. So you've prepared that statement, which I really like. You prepared that in 30-odd degree heat, as well as writing other reviews and things. So I like that.
But I just thought it was a question that was so interesting, and there were parts of it that I think I could speak to from a personal experience with my nephew, that I just thought, well, no, I wouldn't expect a production that he is in to be critiqued at the same level as a West End production.
No, I think
However,
that's fair.
when he's older, and if he is in productions that are on stages that open to the public and things like that, I would want to see him as an actor and as an artist being written about critically.
Yeah.
Because that is what the arts are there for. The arts are only half completed until someone is talking and writing, and it's up for discussion. And, but I just think it's the way you come about it.
So I think for me, I do, obviously I completely agree with what you're saying there. I think it goes without saying. What I will say is, to add to that, I do think to a certain extent, yes, we do need to make sure that we are critically writing about the arts, and we need to make sure that we're critically writing about all of the arts, and we should do that equally. However, you should go in with the mindset that I am going to see a theatre piece. It is based on a West End. It is a West End budget and production. I am going to see that. So you need to have that frame of mind, like you were saying, when you walk in through the door, you need to have that set in your mind as a goal, so you're not judging people completely unfairly. You're judging them based on their skill set, their budget, their availability. You need to have all these nuances in before you walk in through the door, because otherwise, I mean, you judge, I mean, that Fawlty Towers thing I went to go and see yesterday, that clearly hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of funding, private funding has gone into that to make it the West End fantastic touring production that it is. However, you cannot adequately compare that to the two-hander that we went to go and see in Blackwood Miners Institute last year. It's called Still Here. There's no way you can, that's comparing apples and oranges.
Interestingly enough, like things like Still Here and Martha's, and I think
My Mixed Up Tape?
No. I'm talking about what was in my 2025 Wrapped, like top productions that I'd seen. They were up there in the top 10.
They were.
Along with big West End style productions that were on the WMC stage. So I think it goes to show that when you enter something with a curiosity, you leave more satisfied. You leave feeling more fulfilled, and you understand the perspective. And I think, you see it all the time. You're like it when it comes to reading. I love to immerse myself in another world that I know nothing about, and I really like fantasy and sci-fi as genres to read. You don't.
No, exactly.
So it is clearly obvious that some people do struggle more than others to sort of unlock a part of their mind where they can look at the world through another person's eyes with curiosity and with respect and openness.
But at the same time, though, Jak, if someone can't do that, then the world of critical writing for the arts is not probably for them.
No, that is true. And I think all too often I do see people who are art critics who even they go and see West End style productions and they just say, didn't like it, it was this, it was that. And I'm like, but were you the intended audience? Now, if you were someone that just went and paid for a ticket and you didn't like it, you're entitled to that opinion.
Absolutely.
But I think when you're going there as a professional critical writer, you need slightly different nuances that you attach to that writing.
Yeah, 100%.
And there's a bit of a weight to it, especially when you're doing not just West End productions, but when you're doing smaller local productions. You've got quite a responsibility on your hands, I think, really, because you could make or break that production company by writing a poorly invested and poorly researched piece.
Yeah, I will say, I think you just need to you just need to appreciate that a review can be the make or break of a production, but also could be the make or break of someone's decision whether to stay in the arts or not. And okay, it's not right that we unfairly raise anybody up against when you compare, when you directly compare them or anything. You do need to weight them adequately against their performance, but at the same time,
there's markers that change depending on what it is that you see.
It's a subjective viewpoint. No two art forms or two artists are the same. Performers, anything. No one is identically the same, and so you have to have a subjective lens on this. And
you always need to think to yourself, what story is it trying to tell, and who is it trying to tell the story to?
This is exactly it. No, I think that's. I'm so glad you wrote a statement. I'm going to say a statement. A statement.
I'm like an influencer that has to give an apology video. But I just thought it was such an important question. I needed to get every sort of angle of it.
I agree. I totally agree,
because it is a really important. And I think what it comes down to is it's not a reviewer being brave. It's about a reviewer and a critical writer having respect for all forms of arts and all artists within those forms of art. Really,
absolutely.
But yeah, that's Sean's question. Was it Sean?
Sally's question.
Sally's question. Apologies.
Thank you, Sally/Sean. Thank you very much. We'll be back with question 2 after this. Okay, Jak, let's go with question 2.
So question number 2 is from Neil. And Neil has said...
Neil with an E or Neil with an I?
With an I.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Neil with an I.
So, I've seen the new play Savage about Paul O'Grady was announced this week.
Oh, I want to go and see it.
I'm quite excited for that. Danny Beard.
Danny Beard.
Yes. And it's got me thinking, why is well-known IP and well-known people taking over theatre? Every new production has a known person or a personality attached to it. Are we losing the skill of original storytelling?
I can answer this. Yes, it is, and it's because it gets bums on seats, Neil.
Yeah.
Question answered. Let's move on.
Do you know what, though? No, it's a really interesting question, to be honest, because it is something we've chatted about before on the podcast, about known IP being brought onto the stage and stuff like that. And I think it comes down to two things, really. Neil is maybe someone who gravitates more towards places like the Wales Millennium Centre or the New Theatre, like in Cardiff.
Yeah, possibly.
Or even, up somewhere like Swansea Grand and things like that, where they have these bigger productions.
They've got some great stuff going on in Swansea Grand,
They
just
do.
to say.
Oh, you've had an interview request for them, actually.
Have I?
Yeah, I've just noticed it in our inbox, but I think we had loads of inboxes on top of theirs, and it went right down to the bottom. And I kept scrolling, because it kept saying we had an unread message on our socials, so I kept scrolling, and then I saw it from Grand Ambition. I haven't read it, because they've literally addressed it, "Hi, Chris." So I was like, I'll leave that to you.
I'm very sorry, I haven't seen that yet.
But he will get back to him. Just his PA needs to remind him. So I think Neil is more used to those styles of theatre.
Yeah.
And maybe not the slightly rough around the edge theatres like Shed Theatre, for example, in Bridgend, or Porters.
Yeah.
But those are the places that are writing unique stories.
Yes, they are.
And those are the
100%.
places that are bringing never told before stories into the world. And usually it's those types of places and fringe festivals and things like that where you see these types of productions for the first time. And they do eventually end up getting picked up. Like, we've been to press nights before where we've seen people from like Screen Alliance Wales and the BBC and bigger production company, like theatre production companies, are there on the same night, on opening night, because they are hedging their bets that it could be something that they take forward and help grow and make it bigger. But if you want to see original stories, you've kind of got to accept the fact that it's not going to have the big stage in, it's not going to have the big lighting, it's going to be in a much smaller venue with relatively unknown actors. But on the flip side, when you've got 900 seat auditorium theatre spaces, they need to fill those spaces. And the handoff of that really is known IP.
Well, I tell you what, Neil, I challenge you. If you like independent theatre, go and see independent theatre and take all your friends and relatives with you, and you'll pack out a space. And when you pack out that space, that will be the encouragement that artist needs to drive that thing forward. And it could end up on a West End stage, and it could end up with some known celebrity playing a part in it, which would drive even more seats to go, people to go and sit on the seats there and watch that production. And it could end up being a fantastic piece of Welsh branded IP that we can take all around the world and really showcase the best of Wales. But the way that starts is by getting bums on seats and paying for tickets for Neil down the road's cousin's uncle's dog's friend, who's just putting on this random little play that, if we all went to go and see it and supported it and really got behind it, obviously pending the fact that it's good, and if we all really got behind it and pushed it forward, that's what we need to do. And that it's a chicken and an egg scenario. If you stop going to watch independent productions, we will get nothing new. If you only go and watch fantastic IP that's well established, that's all you're ever going to see. You need to be the one who has the mix of the two.
I think it is easy, to be fair to Neil, I think it is easy to just be drawn to known IP and bigger theatres in general. It is quite easy to be drawn to them because we all get wrapped up in the excitement from them. We had an email from the guys at the WMC, the press team there, saying about the stuff that was coming up, and like one of the things, like, I'm really excited to go and see Burlesque. I'm really excited to go and see Mamma Mia.
Oh yes,
they're two that I'm quite excited to go and see.
Never seen Mamma Mia.
But just as equally, I remember when we went to go and see Baby Brain.
Yes,
in
Kimberly
Porters,
Nixon.
And I was so excited to go and see that because
Kimberly Nixon from Baby Brain. She was going to see Fawlty Towers last night.
Oh, did you say hello to her?
No, because she walked straight past me, and when someone gives a knowing look, and I was like, I feel like I know who you are, but I can't remember how.
I get that a lot, and I think it is because, sometimes it is because of, the podcast and our social medias and stuff like that people sort of take a second look at you, like, I've seen that face somewhere. I'm usually just sat there.
Yeah, and I could work with them, I've no idea.
Yeah, but But yeah, I think it is. You sort of need to have a nice buffet of theatre.
Yes.
If you're a theatre lover, it can be quite difficult. And I think I've said before on this podcast that money is tight and people will pay for what they think is going to give them a good bit of entertainment. But every now and again, just chance it. Go out there.
Yeah.
You're going to see some bad stuff. You're going to see some good stuff.
Oh, we've seen some bad stuff.
But we've seen some bad stuff. In the Wales Millennium Centre, we've seen some bad stuff. Same in the new theatre. We've seen some bad stuff that is big IP, that is like known names, and it's just not landed great.
Yeah.
I personally didn't love, I think it was last year, possibly it was there, Chicago. In WMC, and it is one of my favourite films. It's one of my favourite musicals. This rendition of it, something was off with me, and a couple of people left during the intermission and didn't come back. Yeah, but it is back next year.
One of my favourite films, Cruel Intentions, known IP, absolutely. Well, I'm not going to say hated, but really
it wasn't great, to be honest.
Oh wow, it was bad.
There's as much bad stuff as there is good stuff with the known IP as well. So just spread yourself a little, and go and see some stuff in some indie spaces, and you might be surprised.
You will be the change, but ultimately the reason that, like going back to Neil's original question, the reason there is known IP on stage, and the reason there are people who are famous celebrities and actors and performers and whatever else, the reason they are on stage is because they will sell tickets. Their name and that brand will sell the ticket, and it will make you go along to the theatre.
But also,
which makes sense.
Let's not forget that when you go and see like the Paul O'Grady Savage play now,
which I am looking forward to.
That is a gateway to talking to people about things like class, sexuality, that you could go and see that in a production that is made more indie. Yeah. But it is going to reach a wider audience doing it through that. So there's pros and cons to all of them, I think, really. Yeah. And I think you can go and see the same or a similar style story that is talking on the same themes as a big West End production, but then you can also go and see it as a more indie production, and you'll get different nuances depending on what they're about and who's making them.
It would be really interesting one day, social study, to say, right, I tell you what, let's put the story of Paul O'Grady into Savage and starring Danny Beard and have all that known IP, and then take the exact script and the storytelling and just change the names and put it on in some random theatre somewhere, and just put unknown actors in it and see what the difference in audience turnout would be. Now that would be an interesting social study. I would pay for that.
I think to summarise it, to sort of round off Neil's question here, I think I would say known IP stuff, entertaining. Indie theatre, exciting, because you just don't know what you're going to get out of it.
And I love that. That's great. Well done, Jak. Thank you very much. You summed that up very nicely.
You're welcome. I don't know how my brain is working in this heat.
I know. It does get warmer in here.
Or if you're watching, I apologise for the state of me. But if you're listening as well, take a shot every time Jak complains about the heat.
I know. See, I don't complain about the heat.
Take a shot of water so you stay hydrated.
I don't complain about the heat because as long as it's not humid, I am absolutely fine.
I'd been fine right up until last night.
Yeah.
Last night, I said to you this morning, didn't I? I felt like a chicken nugget in the oven slowly being heated up because I was just laying there in bed thinking, I can't cope with this. I can't cope with this. And the more you think it, the more hot and bothered you get. Yeah. So I went downstairs, and as I was walking down the stairs, I could feel it getting cooler. Yeah. And I slept on the sofa last night.
Now, I have a lovely night's sleep when it's warm because I like being warm.
And because I'm such a good dog owner, the one fan we have in this house is pointed on them at the night.
Except for we have like some little piddly one in this corner that's slowly blasting heat cool at us, or just regurgitating the air. But anyway, shall we quickly move on to art history of the week?
Ooh, yeah.
Do you need a coffee break?
Okay, so
tell me more.
History of the week. Yeah. So I thought I'd do something slightly dangerous this week.
Dangerous?
We're going to attempt all of our history in about 7 minutes. What? Because I thought to myself, do you know what? I talk about all these different art movements and things like that. And some people listening at home might not know or have heard of them before, which is great because it's a jumping off point.
Okay.
But everyone likes to have a little bit of a summary, an index, just a breaking down of all of them. And I thought this then provides a really good jumping off point for lots of different ones going forward then.
Okay,
so I'm going to give
intrigued.
you a one-stop shop, 7-minute art history breakdown. You
Prepare
ready?
yourself. I'm prepared.
Okay, so the fact is this. Art is basically one long argument, or art history is basically one long argument about what art should be. And every few hundred years, someone turns up and says, actually, actually, everyone else is doing it wrong. This is the way you should do it. So that is basically art history summarised, really.
Basically art summarised, yeah.
So let's start at the beginning.
Right.
Right back at the beginning. Cave paintings.
Oh, caves.
30 to 40,000 years ago, humans were already painting animals on cave walls, which means one of the very first things our species did after inventing civilization was to make art.
Yes.
And nobody really knows why. Was it storytelling, religion, hunting, magic, boredom? We generally don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But what we do know is that before people wrote books, they painted.
Okay.
So fast forward a few thousand years, and you've got the ancient Egyptians.
We're moving through time very quickly, yeah.
And Egyptian art wasn't trying to look realistic. It was trying to look eternal.
Okay.
So that's why everybody's painting sideways. Their heads are side on, their eyes are facing forward, the shoulders are front on, and the legs are always sideways.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, every person looks like they've been assembled by IKEA parts.
Yes, I love Egyptian art.
But then the Greeks arrive.
Yes.
And the Greeks become absolutely obsessed with realism. So they wanted perfect bodies, perfect proportions, perfect symmetry. And suddenly statues started looking like actual humans, albeit humans who never skipped leg day, but they did look like humans.
Right.
Then comes the Renaissance.
Okay.
And honestly, this is where art history becomes completely unfair, because within a relatively short period of time, you get Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael, and they're all operating at the same time. Which for art historians can be quite a...
And all eating pizza and battling Shredder.
No, you're thinking of Teenage Mutant Ninja
Oh,
Turtles.
my mistake.
Turtles
My
and a
mistake.
half
Sorry
shell.
about
Turtle power. But, but it's basically, it's like discovering that Shakespeare, the Beatles, and David Attenborough all lived on the same street. So there's a lot to like focus on when it comes to that time of art history, really. Mm-hmm. So Leonardo paints the Mona Lisa, which is famous partly because nobody can agree what her expression on her face is. Michelangelo paints the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, and while standing on scaffolding for years, and despite the popular myth that he wasn't lying on his back while he was doing it, he was mostly standing awkwardly with his neck bent, which somehow sounds a little bit worse to me.
Yeah, I wouldn't fancy that.
Then artists get good, really good. So it's almost like they became bored. And what happened, and this happens like repeatedly throughout art history, is that they get bored of whatever it is. A group of artists will get bored of what the current trend is, and they try and flip it on its head.
Okay.
So then enters the Impressionists.
Oh, I like an Impressionist.
Yeah. And by the 19th century, cameras have been invented, and suddenly art faces a problem, quite a similar problem to what we have today with like AI and things like that, where artists are sort of thinking to themselves, if machines can perfectly record reality, what's the point in painting reality?
This is true.
So artists like Monet start painting light itself. No objects, no details, just a feeling of movement. And critics hated it, as they do. That's a theme, really.
Yes.
But they thought the paintings looked unfinished. In fact, the word impressionist began as an insult, which, again, is another thing that is reoccurring through history. The name they end up being known by was almost a reclaimed insult.
From
Like
what they
queer.
had.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So then comes Vincent van Gogh.
God, we are flying through time.
Yeah, and if art history has a patron saint, it is probably Van Gogh. He sold almost nothing during his lifetime, struggled with mental health, died believing that he'd failed, and now The Star of Night is one of the most recognisable paintings on the planet.
Yeah.
Which is one of those stories that is simultaneously inspiring and incredibly depressing when you think about it.
This is very true.
Then 20th century artists arrive and collectively decide that realism has become boring. So Pablo Picasso starts breaking faces into geometric shapes.
Yes.
The Fauves start painting people green and trees orange.
And if you didn't know what that was, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago.
We did indeed. Abstract artists decide paintings don't even need to depict anything.
No.
And somewhere along the way, someone exhibits a urinal as art, which, you know, that's when you know things have really escalated.
Oh, but I loved
about Dadaism.
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. I want to buy it.
But that was an artist, Michael Duchamp. Yeah, Duchamp.
That popping is going to irritate some podcasting listeners.
And arguably, he changed art forever because his question wasn't, can I paint better? It was, what is art? Which changed a lot of people's perspectives.
Yeah.
And honestly, we've been arguing about that ever since.
Okay.
So, My favourite thing about all of this is that in every movement during it, it was thought that it was modern art during that time. So if you go right back to the Renaissance, all the way up to Dadaism and Expressionism, in that time, that was then considered as modern art and revolutionary or hated. So the Renaissance thought that it was revolutionary. The Impressionists were thought as radical. Cubists thought they were reinventing everything.
I loved Cubism.
And now they're all hanging quietly in a museum, waiting for the next generation to rebel against them, which is basically the entire story of art. One group invents the rules, the next group break them. The group after that breaks those rules, and eventually somebody puts a shark in a tank and wins a Turner Prize. And somehow that's kind of all part of the same story when you think about it. It is just a very repetitive story going over and over and over. So there it is. The art history of 1,000 years of humans asking one simple question: what happens if we try and do things differently?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That was cave paintings to right up to now in
Cave
7
paintings
minutes.
to urinals on plinths.
Oh, and do you know what? I would buy that. That's the kind of art that I would subscribe to, Dadaism.
Yeah.
And I love Dali as well. But yeah, the absurd is the thing is where I love to sit. And obviously because that's just me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was fantastic. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
7 minutes there. Wow.
Well,
Anyway,
maybe 7 minutes. I don't know. It might have gone a bit over.
no, I think you're pretty much bang on time. Well done.
So we
Well
got
done.
the week ahead.
Oh yeah, go for it. Yeah, what are we doing actually this week?
So yeah, we have we're not going to be able to make it, unfortunately, but I will talk about it
where
just
are
so
we
people know. John Bevan, the play about John Bevan, the rugby player by the same production, is still here.
Yes.
That will be going on next week all around. I've written an article on it, put it out on the edit, so that people who do want to go see it, they know where it is and when and stuff like that. I would highly recommend. Neil, if you're listening to this episode and you want to dip your toe into some more independent theatre, these
Yes.
are definitely one to go and see. Mary Lloyd wrote a great play, was still here with just 2 cast and a square bit of rope as the stage.
Yeah.
It was really, really good. And I think the more you
was.
strip it back, the better storytelling can be, really,
It was,
sometimes.
100%.
So that's coming up this week. I'm mostly next week researching, writing for some, not just the book, but I just want to put some more just interesting articles out on the edit.
Oh, okay.
Not just critical writing, but just interesting
Some
writing.
op-eds, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Interesting. Looking forward to that.
And then, yeah, we have, so it's our nephew's birthday,
Yeah.
actually on Friday.
Yes.
But then it's the following weekend we're having a party for his
Yeah.
birthday. But me and my sister are going to take him down to the bay for ice cream, might pop into the WMC, into the Wales Millennium Centre, and take him into one of the immersive experiences.
Yeah. Oh, he'd love stars.
Yeah,
He would love
He
stars.
would love that one. Or depending on what it's his birthday, we've got to kind of let him do what he wants to do. Might take him into Technoquest.
Oh, I do love a bit of Technoquest
Yeah.
as well. Bit of
Or-
creativity
Or
there.
maybe even take him over to the cinema. Don't
Yeah,
know. But he definitely wants ice cream. So
Well, I mean, he's not going to be able to walk far with ice cream in this temperature.
no, we'll sit in, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say. Well, is that us for this week?
I
Oh, no,
think-
we're going to go see Annie soon as
Oh,
well.
yeah, Annie. Is that next week? I can't
that is
remember.
Annie
It's
in the
not
Wales
scheduled
Millennium
in for
Centre.
me yet, so I don't know when it is.
I know, 'cause tickets only come in today.
Ah, okay.
The Wales Millennium Centre next Tuesday will be there that evening, and also I will be speaking to Claire Sweeney from Annie on Friday, and we'll be posting that interview out on the edit over the weekend, I'd imagine, as well.
It all lines up quite well.
It
From
does.
a hard knock life with this heat to Annie next week in the WMC.
Oh, look at that! Look at that!
Managed to shoot one more in for you, for those of you taking little shots of water to stay hydrated.
He's on fire, quite literally. So anyway, that is us done for this week. Thank you so much for joining us. You can follow us on socials. Jak_Welsh Arts, Chris J Birch _UK, Pain in the Arts podcast. That's an @ as well somewhere. Or you can have a look at all these articles on the Edit Wales as well, and the editwales.com. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be back here next week, hopefully a little bit cooler. Have a great week.